Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. I am your host, Christopher Mader, proving once again that the Meat and Potato Show is nationwide. Calling in all the way from South Dakota is Jason Ravnsborg. He is a major in the reserves. He's been serving a total of 17 and a half years. In 2003, he was stationed in Germany. Between 2004 and 2005, he served in Iraq. And between 2009 and 2010, he served in Afghanistan and has been awarded the Bronze Star. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Jason Ravnsborg. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well, Chris. It's great to be with you here today.
I've been cruising your website. I have seen a lot of different campaign websites out there. I am very impressed with the way you've got yours set up. I mean, you cover a lot of issues on here, and I want to get right into it here. We'll get started right on this interview. So let's start here. Jason, I want you, even though I've already introduced you, I want you to tell our audience about you. Tell us about things that you did in the military, anything outstanding in there. Tell us about yourself and the reason you have decided to run for Senate. Go ahead.
Well, I decided to run because our country's got a lot of problems. We don't want to address them, it seems like. We just want to kick the can down the road, and we just want to blame the other side. And that goes both ways to an extent. We have to start addressing some of the problems, and I think Washington is just out of touch. Unfortunately, we've got people there that have been there longer than I've been alive, and I'm 38 years old. And we need to start sending some leaders to Washington, not just people that worry about getting reelected. So a little bit about myself. When I am still in the military. While I was on my deployments in Afghanistan, I worked a lot with NATO and trying to get things done. I think Congress is bad. I think NATO is probably worse.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, it's bad enough here in the United States working with an international partnership. That must be insane. Go ahead.
Well, you start off in your first year, you're 70% of the population along our base. I was at a place called Kandahar in the south. The United States was 70% of the population, and we got one vote. The other four stakeholder nations of France, Great Britain, Belgium, and Canada all got one vote each. So they got four votes, and they were only 30% total. So you had to build a consensus to get anything done. And, we did a lot of good for the people over there. They built roads and bridges and also schools to help educate them, but unfortunately they're just way behind.
And the Taliban go and blow them up. The Taliban go and blow them up. After you guys are done putting the last coat of paint on, the Taliban show up a week later and they blow the damn thing up. Hey, what is that?
Well, they definitely run interference, that's for sure.
What is, all right, you were over there. And you know the problem with Islam going on here in America. There's always, and when I say a problem, I mean, it's kind of like what's going on in Europe. I mean, there's entire enclaves now in America that are just Islamic enclaves. Now, you were over there. You actually interacted with the people. Give us a vis-a-vis, like what you saw over there, what do you see going on here, and give us your input on that.
Well, Afghanistan was even worse than Iraq. At least Iraq had some structure. They had parties, and they understood the central government theory. Afghanistan, a lot of corruption, unfortunately. They are a very tribal society, and there was lots of bribes and payoffs and corruption to the nth degree. And they didn't even have a lot of structure to understand somebody off in the distance in a centralized government theory. And so, it's disturbing because obviously they talk about you either have to convert to become Islamic or their intent is to kill you. You're an infidel. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's very disturbing if it's in Afghanistan, Iraq, or if you're in America.
Sure. Let's get into what's going on in South Dakota, and basically the Dakotas, the North and South Dakota. And again, I got a lot of stuff off your website. I went through practically the entire thing. Well done. Whoever designed it and put it together, I mean, very well done. Lots of information on there. And I'll post up the link on the interview and on the Meat and Potatoes page so that people can go and check it out. But oil production and fracking, they're big business in both the North and the South of the Dakotas. But from what a little bit of demographic studies of the Dakota areas, it's not exactly a big booming economy out there, but now with all this groundbreaking fracking and oil discovery, things are heating up. Now the Keystone Pipeline will be coming through the Dakotas if it ever gets approved, and you have spoken out in favor of that, and I want to quote from your site, and you say that this administration playing politics as usual. The hedge fund manager, Tom Steyer, a Democratic donor, has promised to raise $100 million to assist Democrats in the elections, and he strongly opposed the pipeline project. It's as if he bought this delay, and that's all over the news. So like the BLM saying that Bundy's cattle are destroying the desert tortoises, Ambassador Rice claiming Benghazi was the result of a bad video, Obama is claiming the pipeline would destroy the environment. Now, even though we already have 10,000 miles of pipeline in America already, it turns out it's all about the money. Just show me the money, isn't it, Jason? Go ahead.
Well, yes, we have an Alaskan pipeline that's been there for 40 years. It's actually helped, like, the caribou come to it because it's warm. They've actually increased their population. And there's 11 Democrat senators who have now signed on to wanting the pipeline, along with all 45 Republican senators, and Harry Reid won't even bring it up for a vote. We got 56 senators already on record, and there's a half a dozen more that are undecided. Bring it up for a vote. And the union's a Democrat, obviously heavily Democrat organization. They want the pipeline, but unfortunately, you got these people like Mr. Stiers and Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has all the railroads and the truck assets. So he doesn't want the pipeline because he's making millions of dollars.
Sure.
We need to start developing our infrastructure for energy. And this president has, unfortunately, a war on coal and wants to claim credit for the increased oil production while he shuts down leases.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the American people are going to have to start paying more and more in increased electricity and fuel prices because we won't develop our own infrastructure. It's just unbelievable to me.
And the more we end up buying stuff from foreign countries, especially the Middle East, the more we can't help ourselves but have to be entangled in their problems because if we depend on foreign oil, then obviously we have to be over there militarily wise in order to keep our interests safe. And then, of course, we all know that we fall into that trap of the left. It's like, well, you're going to war for oil. It's like, well, let us drill our own oil here, and then you can stop screaming and yelling about war for oil. We won't have to go to war anymore for oil to get oil to, take care of your Coleman tents and your iPhones and everything else when you're on your Occupy movement protests. I want to explore something else here that's going on in the Dakotas. And again, more stuff from your website was on here. Let's explore the Northern Beef packing plant. Again, this was on your site. Northern Beef opened on a limited basis in 2012 after years of delays. It sounds like just more of the same stuff. But filed for bankruptcy protection in July. Investment banking firm White Oak Global Advisors submitted the winning $44.4 million credit and cash bid for the plant in December and closed on the sale earlier this month. Much of Northern Beef's investment money was raised through the federal EB-5 program, which encourages foreign investment, get this folks, in exchange for qualifications to secure permanent residency. Well, isn't that special? Explain this all to us, Jason. What's going on here?
Well, we've got this ongoing scandal up here. It's called EB-5. There's a federal program where foreign investors, which are predominantly Chinese and Koreans, will give $500,000 to $1 million. They can secure a green card and move towards citizenship. So we're basically selling our citizenship to foreign investors. Well, then there are a lot of unanswered questions with this program here in South Dakota, and actually, we've been told there's a federal investigation and a federal grand jury been impaneled to investigate. They put about $120 million into a beef processing plant in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and then they ended up going to bankruptcy court. They lost it and sold it for $40 million, as you said. So approximately $80 million was lost, and apparently about $4 to $5 million of South Dakota taxpayers' money was lost in this program. So it just seems to be, a lot of unanswered questions that are slowly being investigated. And with our Senate race here, we have one of my opponents has oversaw that program, and he oversaw that program, and obviously this seat is very important. We have a Democrat, Tim Johnson, retiring finally, and it's an opportunity to pick it up. But if we don't answer some of these questions, obviously the Democrats are going to ask about him in the fall and have the potential to lose this seat.
Okay.
And we got to pick up 6 seats to take control of the Senate.
Every time, I've been doing this show since 2008, I have not met any candidate or any guest. I mean, throughout all the years I've been doing this, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of people I've interviewed, this corruption, this cronyism, this losing of the money and nobody can account for it, the Harry Reid, the Bundy debacle, the meatpacking plant problem there in South Dakota. This stuff is everywhere. It's it's in our face. It's every day. No longer can we say, well, that's an isolated incident. Well, it's not really, these people work very hard and this is something that fell through the cracks. No, this is standard operating procedure for government writ large, isn't it?
Well, sadly, again, we got these career politicians that are more worried about themselves than the taxpayers and doing what's right for the country. And we just got to start having some responsible people go to Washington. And we've had some success in the last couple of years. We've sent people like Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Ron Johnson and Rand Paul there, 4 people who had never been elected before, and they've gone in there and they're trying to restore the American dream, without being beholden and be there for 50 years like that Congressman Dingell up in Michigan. I mean, if you're in Congress for 58 years, you can't tell me you're not out of touch.
Exactly. Really. 58 years, really? That's how long Dingell's been in. That's insane. And go ahead.
Get this. His wife is now going to run. Unbelievable.
Hey, keep it in the family, you know what I mean? Keep it in the family. Let's move on here. Again, more stuff from your website. You've come out against the Affordable Care Act. And I was reading some of your statements, and I want to read a little bit here. And I have a slight disagreement with you on one of these things here, but you can go right ahead after I'm done here. The law is obviously broken. This is from your site. And tinkering with it one small step at a time is not the way to fix it or give employers any sense of stability for the economy. As a nation, our best option is to repeal the law and propose legislation that makes sense and is fair to our economy and our citizens. Continual administrative tinkering will not fix that which is obviously broken. I am looking closely at the Patient Choice, Affordability, Responsibility, and Empowerment Act. Anytime, Jason, that these names of these bills get long, I begin to worry. The Patient Care Act empowers the American people, not government-centered mandates and regulations, allowing the people to make the best health care decisions for their families and themselves. And I agree with that. That's a good idea. My slight disagreement with you is this concept of repeal Obamacare and replace it with something else. And I think what we should do is to start just peeling back all the legislation. Even the HIPAA laws that were passed in the 90s, they set restrictions for the insured. And here in Massachusetts, we can only buy from a small pool that the state of Massachusetts allows in. I can't, for instance, let's say there's Company A out in South Dakota that sells health insurance. Me, Christopher, here in Massachusetts, I cannot buy insurance from Company A in South Dakota. If Americans can buy from whoever they want, the prices are going to drop and the options will expand. I mean, it's simple economics. But I want to hear your thoughts on this and back up this Patient Care Act idea that that you're getting behind.
Well, we have to repeal Obamacare.
Yeah.
I've unfortunately heard so many horror stories that have gone around the state campaigning. I got a guy out here who says he's losing his health insurance because he's a 63-year-old retiree that doesn't have pediatric coverage. His kids are all grown, and he doesn't have prenatal coverage. So he's a man. You know, it's just absolutely unbelievable. That he said, I won't ever need these things. They don't biologically apply, and my kids are grown. But he's going to lose it because Obamacare requires that type of camp coverage. Well, he's losing his health care coverage. So if Harry Reid thinks we're lying, I got somebody he could go talk to. Next, yes, I don't believe we can just be the party of no. We got to have our own solutions and offer the people a vision of what we're going to do. Because, yes, healthcare has rising costs. And if you look at the Patient Care Act, it has things like tort reform in there. Yes, I'm an attorney, and I'm for tort reform.
Thank you, very important.
But it's the right thing to do. And sometimes some tough choices need to be made. And I think, again, we need to send some leaders to D.C. who are more interested in helping the country than lining their own pockets. And, you know, there may be a better plan than Mr. Coburn's. This is the best one I've seen, but unfortunately, this Obamacare has got its hooks into America. You know, and people are signing up in record numbers for Medicaid, you know, that don't have insurance. And, you know, we have to, what are we going to do with these people once we repeal Obamacare? Obviously, if we go back to repealing it, we have saved ourselves a lot of grief, but where do we go from there? And I'm open to another plan if there's something out there, but, you know, so far that's the best one I've seen.
Right, and I completely agree with what you just said, because, yeah, you're right. I mean, people are signing up for this, and if it does get repealed or overturned or somehow defunded, you're right. What are we going to do with all these people that have signed up? It's going to be a political football, and I don't care who gets into office after 2016. It's going to be a political hot potato for who's ever sitting in that seat at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, isn't it?
Well, yes, because it's only going to get worse, because once the president stops playing politics and actually implements the entire law, because right now he knows it's going to be bad. He's delaying the employer mandate because he knows thousands and thousands, if not millions of people are going to further lose their insurance when the employer mandate hits. But right now he's picking and choosing what parts of laws he implements. That's not our system of government. You pass laws and the president enforces them. But unfortunately, this administration, on a whole a whole number of issues, is picking and choosing which laws they want to choose to implement if they agree or disagree with them. And that is not the oath that they took.
Well, that's liberalism also. You know, I have a saying that I've said many times in public and on the Meat and Potato Show. You know, liberalism, you can always spot a liberal because you want to check the wet finger. And what I mean by the wet finger is what liberals do is they wet their finger and they hold it up to the political wind. Whichever the way the wind is blowing, that's the way they go. And it's subject to change without notice and without explanation at any point in time. And so if you want to spot a liberal, feel their fingers. If their fingers are wet, then that's a liberal, holding up their finger to the political wind. Let's move on here. Again, you're for a balanced budget. Everyone's for a balanced budget. You can't run your home. I can't run my home without a balanced budget. And we always hear about a few $1 million that are wasted here and a few $1 million wasted there. And 40% of all revenue that is spent on an agency, the money is 40% of it goes to actually just running that agency. And now estimates range between 10 and 20% in addition to that is wasted. It's fraud, it's abuse, or just money just gets lost. I mean, Hillary Clinton, she can't account for something like $5 to $6 billion from the State Department. Nobody's saying a damn thing about it. Well, this translates into roughly about 60% of all the money spent for a program is either lost or it just goes to administering the program itself. Now, should we be gutting some of these programs, getting rid of the redundancy, return the responsibility to the states? And should we back up, and a lot of people will say, well, now the states have this, how are they going to pay for this? It's like, well, since we got rid of the federal agency, let's say federal agency A takes $10 billion, okay? 60% of that is wasted. Well, if we get rid of the agency, then we can give some of that money to the state in a block grant. And I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Well, we got to start being serious about balancing the budget. Everybody talks about it, but they don't actually do anything about it. That's the problem. In December, they had a budget that they finally passed, and at least they passed one because I was beginning to think that they forgot how. But they cut veterans like $6 billion. They hope to save over the next 10 years $22 billion. Well, but they're giving all these cuts back first, and then hopefully they'll, in future years, maybe think about coming around to thinking about cutting again. I mean, it's just absolutely backwards. I've read a lot about, like, Rand Paul has a budget. I've, read Paul Ryan's budget. There's a number of plans out there. There's a lot of redundancy. As Ronald Reagan used to say, the number one job of the bureaucracy is to protect the bureaucracy. And we've got programs and organizations that we do not need. We do not need the Federal Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Housing and Urban Development could have some reforms. And also, I like to believe that we need to cut the corporate income tax, or corporate taxes. We have some of the highest taxes in the world, and we're trying to lead the world's economy. If we cut them from 35% to 25%, over the next 10 years, we can produce 5.5 million jobs. If we do that, obviously we get more revenue coming in, because there's more people working, and with the lowest participation rate since 1976, we need to get people working again in this country. And not just these shovel-ready jobs as the president joked about and laughed about that didn't materialize. And then I like the simple penny plan out of Florida, Connie Mack, and you probably heard about it on Hannity a number of times. You take 1% and you cut it across the board. So every $100 we spend, we cut it $1. Not Washington math, where they increase it to 105 and cut it back to 104 and somehow call it cut. You actually cut it. And if we can do that across the board, we can balance the budget in 5 to 6 years.
Certainly. And go ahead.
And then there, of course, Dr. Coburn, again, down in Oklahoma, he publishes an annual study, of all the waste that we have in the government. We just need to get serious about balancing the budget, not just a lot of hot rhetoric.
Now, here's the thing, too. Getting back to a couple of things that you said. Yes, you're right. As far as Washington is concerned, you're right. Let's say the budget is $100 million. Well, there's always in the 70s a budget gimmick that was passed by the Democrat-controlled House and Senate. I think it was under Nixon. I don't have the information in front of me, but I was reading this a few weeks ago. Yeah, every year the budget technically goes up 2%. Well, that was the 70s. It probably has increased. But you're right. The budget automatically increases every year. And so when let's get back to what I said about Company A. Let's say Agency A or Agency B gets $10 billion, and then you get your increase. Well, next year you're going to get $12 billion, and then maybe the opposition will come in and say, well, you know what? We can't afford to give you the $12 billion. We're going to only increase it to $11 billion. And then, of course, the left goes out there and says, oh, look, they've cut our budget. They cut your budget. Your budget automatically increases $2 billion a year. I just can't give you that $2 billion. I'm going to give you a $1 billion. I just can't give you the $2 billion. But this is what the nation believes. And I also want to address what you said about the corporate tax. Again, the left will sit there and scream, oh, tax breaks for the rich, tax breaks for the rich. It's always the same mantras that they throw out there. It is a proven fact that because we have such a high tax rate for our corporations, what corporations are doing is two things. One, they've got all sorts of loopholes they can crawl through to avoid paying their full share. Not their fair share, their full share. In addition, they they harbor money in overseas accounts. There's trillions of dollars that they're just hiding in offshore accounts, foreign accounts. And you're right, if we can cut that and bring that money back here to the United States, not only is it money that is generating here in our economy, it's money that's going into the public coffers as well and helping to balance our budget. Am I somewhat correct on that?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. The estimates that I've read are there's approximately $4 trillion overseas that we could repatriate back to create jobs. And as you probably saw in the last couple days, our economy is growing at the blitzing rate of 0.1%. Woo! I mean, I don't know.
It's like the little engine that could. I think I can.
I mean, geez. I mean, and meanwhile,
hang on, Jason. Quick, hold your hats. That wind blast of the roaring economy is going to hit you any minute now.
Yeah, I know. I better sit down here because I might get knocked off my feet.
Really? Is that the number of 0.01%? Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, that's what they just put out this week. And then, but then the administration likes to look at the jobs numbers just on Friday were 6.3% unemployment. We're doing great, except we have the lowest participation rate since 1976. I mean, nobody's working. We have more people not working than working, it seems like, anymore.
Yeah.
If you start looking at the numbers in depth, it's very scary. They just like to, look, it went down to 6.3. Well,
people know
that we have obviously more of a problem than they're letting on.
Exactly, and you know, because you see the numbers too, and anybody who's prudent, and because I do this show, I've studied all of this too. I mean, those numbers that they released each week or each month, that's just what's happening that week or that month. When they talk about a 6.2% unemployment or 6.5%, that's that month or that quarter or that week. They always fail miserably to include the amount of people whose benefits have run out, they can't get anything more, they can't find a job, and the media tends to use the term, they've given up looking for work. Nobody ever gives up looking for work. It's just that what has happened is their unemployment benefits run out. Their COBRA insurance has run out. Everything has completely dried up for these people, and these people are literally left twisting in the wind, aren't they?
Yes, it is just sad. I mean, I've seen numerous studies that show, all the longer we keep people on unemployment, the longer they're going to stay there. I mean, we have to start producing some good paying jobs and not making the benefits of not working be more advantageous than obviously the ability to work.
Certainly.
And we got to get our country back to working again because we need the revenue, but then we need to have people in Washington who are responsible when this new revenue actually comes in to not spend it on new programs and actually apply it towards our problems and start balancing the budget.
Let's continue on this problem of unemployment. I'm going to bring in the subject of the illegals and illegal aliens. And again, more stuff from your website. And I actually want to go through. You've got, 4 or 5 points here. I want to cover them item by item. And so anyway, what you say on your site, political correctness has taken the correct term of illegal alien and reduced this crime to undocumented worker. And this is simply a lie, and I completely agree with you. These illegal aliens are just what the definition says, illegal, and they are in fact aliens to America. And I have always said publicly and on my show and on my pages, there's no such thing as the term illegal immigration. Either you are an immigrant and therefore you're here legally, you're supposed to be here, you filled out the paperwork, you waited your turn in line, and you came here legally. Or you're just a criminal and you just broke the law. You crossed our borders. There's a report that's floating around now out on the internet. There was a Marine that somehow got somehow kidnapped or captured by Mexican soldiers. I mean, the guy's detained in jail. The State Department is, again, dragging its feet, trying to release an American. But, I mean, if somebody illegal comes across a country, oh, God, they're given 3 meals a day. They're put up in expensive, even though they're detained and put into technically a holding cell, I mean, these places, I mean, they're given hot food, caught. They're even given, oh, geez, do you have any medical problems? Yes, I have this. Well, we'll give you free medical care. I mean, these people are just given everything, and then they're sent on their way, our tax dollars, back across the borders, only to come back again. I don't know if you're familiar with filmmaker Dennis Michael Lynch. He made a great documentary called They Come to America, Parts 1 and Part 2. And I can send you the links and stuff to look into that. That's something that's a video that you should watch. It's a couple hours. You actually have to sit down, and just watch the whole thing, but you're going to be astounded. But let's go through this. Section 1 here. Senate Bill 744 does not require any additional border fencing or completion of current border fence requirements. Instead, it requires DHS to submit to Congress a fencing strategy in which DHS recommends what additional fencing is needed along the U.S.-Mexican border, if any. And take it from here, Jason.
Well, I mean, being a military background, the first thing you do is secure the perimeter. I mean, if we have laws on the books, we need to either enforce the law or change the law. Well, right now, we have laws on the books for immigration for a reason, and we need to enforce the law. We want to be the land of opportunity, and we want to encourage legal immigration to bring the best and brightest of the world here to make our country better. But the people doing it legally should not be punished by the people that are cutting to the front of the line. And we have to have security on our border. It's not just an immigration problem, it's a national security problem. They have the Fast and Furious program, which we still don't have all the answers to. And, we're running guns, apparently, across the border. Well, illegal guns obviously kill Americans, as we found out with that program. And we need to develop and build a fence. I don't want a strategy to how to build a fence. I'm sure we have a number of great contractors in this world who know how to build a fence.
It gets crazy.
We have a lot of people that need a job.
Exactly.
I think we could get it done.
Oh, good Lord. Let's go into the next one. Senate Bill 744 voids state and local E-Verify laws. And then it goes into the section and the subsection, everything. E-Verify laws. Talk about that for a second.
Well, as you've seen with my website, we need to talk about the issues. A lot of people talk in my race and in other races I've watched about grand ideas. Are you a conservative? Do you have integrity? But that doesn't say anything. I'm dialing down into the weeds of some of these bills that have been passed and or being contemplated, and I try to give you the section of that so that you can go do a little research yourself and, check out. But if we can check if a person is a legal citizen to work, why would we not want to check and verify that for your employers so we get the right taxes and that they further comply with the laws that we have?
Thank you.
To have people that don't follow the law, why are we picking immigration? I mean, if we become a society of we pick and choose which laws we enforce and not, it devalues the meaning of all the other laws. And we need to continue to support that program from that aspect.
Senate Bill 744 does not require the deportation of a single illegal alien. Oh, great. DHS is never required to deport an alien whose RPI, Registered Provisional Immigrant Application, is denied for any reason. All right, so let me get this straight. They're here illegally. They applied, obviously, for something, either asylum or whatever. They applied for immigration status. They were denied this because they came here illegal and committed a crime. But yet DHS is now required. It's like, oh, just don't do anything. So what are we doing with these people? What are we just feeding them and housing them? What's going on here?
no, we're not feeding it out, and we're turning them loose and telling them, oh, you beat it, go ahead, come back in 6 months or a month or whatever you're hearing. And then I've read about thousands of cases, like especially in the big cities, they let them go. Well, then they just don't show up for the appointment.
Exactly.
Well, surprise!
Yeah, really.
Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, well, they caught me, I was doing something illegal, and that they're not going to show up again. And if we, again, have laws, to deport, and they are here illegally, and they've had a hearing, they've even had some due process, it's not like we're just, rounding people up and sending them back. They've had a hearing to determine if they should be here or not. If it's just totally counterproductive to just let them go, why are we even bothering?
And it is backwards. This brings me to the next one, section 4. That because here in Massachusetts, like you just said, we let them go and say, oh, come back in a month for your hearing, and they don't. They disappear into the woodwork, and they're already here in the United States. And here's what happens. I know this happens in Massachusetts because I live here, and it happens in California. Criminals, when you're caught on committing some sort of a crime. And let me read the thing here. Senate Bill 744 states in Section 2101, pages 64 to 67, that DHS is authorized to forgive and expunge the record of an illegal alien that has committed the following crimes. And many of these crimes are felonies: gang-related crimes, gang membership, three or more drunken driving offenses, violating state or federal drug laws, child abuse, domestic violence, things like rape. And here's the thing, again, here in Massachusetts, we arrest them, we find out that, oh, you're here illegal, but for some reason Massachusetts, we're the land of unicorn farts, and it's just bizarro world that we live under here. Yeah, they let these people go. Okay, oh, you posted bail? Oh, okay, well, show up next month. These people don't show up. They're not going to show up. Go ahead, take it from there.
Well, this is the most egregious section of the entire bill, in my opinion. A person commits a felony, where we go and send people away. And if you committed one of these crimes, or if I committed one of these crimes, we'd go to prison.
I'm out of here, right?
And we're instead rewarding these people. Oh, it's wonderful, we'll give you citizenship.
Go back next month.
My record expunged if I would never do one of these things, but if I did, I don't get a free, hey, look, no. I got a free clean slate. And it's just egregious that we're not going to deport or enforce the law, and at worst, expunge their record to give them the opportunity to commit more violence on someone else. Women and children. Seriously, the weakest, children, our most precious assets, and most helpless. These people hurt children,
yeah.
And we're going to give them a free pass?
Yeah.
That's just absolutely unbelievable.
Who comes up with this stuff?
I would love to research. I haven't had the time to. Who actually thought that was a good idea?
Really? Exactly.
I'd like them to explain it to me.
I'm right there with you. I see this stuff all the time, and that's my first question. It's, you almost want to be a fly on the wall during this board meeting and just watch these people. Yes, this is a good idea. I completely agree. I think it's going to move. It's like, are you people? What are you smoking? It's like, holy crap, what are you guys smoking in there? This is what these people think. They actually think that somehow, and here's the thing, it's the same thing with Islam. They think that if they appease, that if they seem like they're nice and they're trying to be more tolerant and understanding, that maybe these people will understand that, well, look how nice and tolerant we're being. No, that's not what's happening. These people are looking at us saying, these freaking Americans, these people are idiots. They just. I just got arrested. I raped some woman and I beat up her child and I raped the child too. I got arrested, posted $100 bail. They told me to come back next month. It's like, really? It's like, yeah, go ahead, go to America. It's open. It's like wide open country here. And yet we blame. Again, you got to see the documentary from Dennis Michael Lynch. He does there's like a good half an hour, 45 minutes of the documentary where he's talking to ranchers that are right there on the border. They own horse ranches, cattle ranches. They just own a lot of land. And these people have to quite literally arm themselves. They can't. They wake up in the morning and they have a sidearm on them, and not just to protect their cattle or their horses from, mountain lions or anything else that's out in the desert. No, because they don't know. They're going to go out to the barn, open up the door, and there's going to be 20 Mexicans sleeping in there. And it's like, come on, guys, you got to get out of here. And that poor rancher doesn't know if those people are going to get up and say, okay, I'm sorry, we're going to leave. Or one of them is going to get up, pull out a gun, and shoot the guy and say, screw you, we're taking over your ranch. And this happens. This happens. But these people, these ranchers, they're the ones that are being blamed. They're the ones that are being put on trial, being arrested. Oh, you killed an illegal Mexican. The guy was breaking into my house. Well, you can't do that. It's like, we have entered bizarro world here, haven't we?
Well, fortunately, we have a little more.
Uh-oh. He's talking to somebody.
Out here, most everybody has a firearm of some nature, and we're not like Connecticut or Rhode Island where you're actually trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves. And we should always have the right to self-defense. You broke into my house, committed a crime, and I'm not supposed to defend myself and defend my wife and children? That's, again, unbelievable.
Especially out there.
Are seeking to then absolve these people of these felonies. I mean, they're a felony for a reason. And obviously, they had the opportunity to go through the court system and be found guilty by either admission or a court or a jury of their peers.
Right.
And we have to follow the law. And if we don't, well, again, what good is it?
Exactly. Now, you had mentioned, we were talking earlier, and you had talked about how the veterans' benefits have been cut back again. Why do we treat our veterans so badly? Why do we do this? And why do we continue to hear all the horror stories? Again, there was another report just a couple of weeks ago that a whole bunch of veterans ended up dying just being on a waiting list, waiting for procedures or treatments or medication. Why do we every war? I mean, you're in your 30s. I'm a 50-year-old man. I've seen this since I was a little kid, watching the 6 o'clock news and watching Vietnam unfold on the 6 o'clock news. When these veterans came back, they were treated like crap, and we continue. And you're a veteran. I mean, what kind of things are you seeing? Why do we keep doing this?
I don't know why we keep doing this.
Yeah,
we're definitely doing it wrong.
That's really the only answer you can give, really.
Yes, I mean, it's just, again, we're heading in the wrong direction. People like myself and hundreds of thousands of brave men and women across our great country have signed that check payable by their life that they would go and defend our country at whatever cost. And when we come home, we don't take care of them. The budget in December, like I said, cut $6 billion out of veterans benefit. We have a hospital out here in Hot Springs, South Dakota, and I always give them a little plug at SaveTheVA.com. They're trying to save their hospital, and they're trying to close it. The Veterans Administration is trying to close it and consolidate it to save money. Well, fortunately, we did have some good leadership by our Congresswoman out here, Kristi Noem, and she got an amendment passed this week to help save that hospital. But we see her continue to have an assault on veterans. And these are the men and women that are coming home from war that have the scars of war, either physically or emotionally, or, they simply gave their time. They go away, especially like I'm in the Army, we go away for a year plus at a time.
Right.
We don't get to see our family. Our family doesn't get to see us. But we did what was right, and then gave the other people that are in the country that did not go to war the opportunity to have freedom and enjoy their way of life. And then when they get home, we seem to want to turn our back on them. And I think that is absolutely egregious. And veterans will have no greater friend in the United States Senate than myself.
Absolutely.
I'm one of only two people, myself and Tom Cotton from Arkansas, who's running for the Senate down there, that have been to Iraq and Afghanistan. I think we need to send more people to D.C. that have had some military experience, with discipline, and knowing what soldiers go through. And obviously, if you have less people there that are not veterans, they don't understand. They didn't go through it. And we send more people like myself and Mr. Cotton, I think veterans will get a better shape.
And let me stop you there because and I'm going a little off the topic here, but this if you look at a who's who of the Obama administration, aside from the people who are on the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the people who are in the Pentagon and some of the people in the national security area and the State Department, the majority of people in the Obama administration, they're all thinkers. They're all philosophers and thinkers, and they're academia. Very few people have actual combat experience, real-world experience. You've been over to Afghanistan and Iraq. You served in Germany for a while. I mean, so you've got a bead on what foreigners are like, what it's like on the other side of the planet, and how these people tick and how these people think. None of those people exist in the Obama administration. There are all these theoretical, political theory type people, aren't they?
Well, sure seems to be a lot of them. I guess I haven't looked at the percentages, but that's why I believe I'm uniquely qualified to go to the United States Senate. I'm a small business owner, so I've had to make a payroll. You have to deal with making money to pay your employees to move forward. I grew up on a farm, and my father still farms. And I know a lot about agriculture and what it takes to, produce something. And then, being a lawyer, and I know sometimes lawyers get a bad rap, but we also deal with problems and deal with, the law and actually read the law and understand it. And then, of course, like I said, leadership and being a veteran. It's not too many people that get honored at Congress, and I'm in a very select category. I must have done something right. Plus,
you got a one star, right? Exactly. Good for you. Well, congratulations on that. Let's head into the next one. Again, more on the economy. For every job that's being advertised, there's roughly 25 to 30 people applying for that job. If you had to go and fill out a job application, there's 25 to 30 people either in front of you or behind you that are applying for that same job. There was a time in America you couldn't swing a cat without hitting a help wanted sign. I actually, and a lot of people get on my case, but I remember during Clinton, the economy was doing really well. I mean, I was running a contracting business at the time. It was just a small operation off my kitchen table. But, I did not want for work. And as I would drive around the state of Massachusetts going to my various job sites, every city and town I went through, I'd see help wanted. In fact, people were even saying, we'll pay you a $100 bonus just for filling out an application. And I remember back during the 90s saying to myself, enjoy this moment, Christopher. It's never going to come again. And it's horrible now, isn't it?
Well, we have a lot of people that are going to college, and then when they come out of college, they don't have an opportunity to have a job. And then, obviously, a lot of them will have a lot of student loans, and you got to, start somewhere and find a job. We cannot continue to just pay people to be on welfare or unemployment. You have to get this country working again. China is moving and growing their economy at an alarming rate, and soon they will be, catching up to us if we're not vigilant. And we need to start having jobs in this country and get people back to work, or we're going to have a problem real soon, and we're going to have to make some very tough choices. We still have time to fix it, but we have to be vigilant and try.
What did you say earlier? The economy's roaring along at 0.01%. It's like, oh man, put your safety glasses. Put your safety glasses on. You might get hit with something.
And it's only 6 months of a negative growth that is a recession. We're on the verge of going in that direction. 0.1% is anemic at best. We have to start working again.
You're being kind.
We have
you're being
burden of debt.
Yeah, you're being kind by saying it's anemic at best. Jason, thanks so much for coming on the show. Tell us what's in store for you in the weeks ahead. How's your campaign shaping up? Tell us about the campaign. How are things going for you?
Things are actually going really well. I have a primary on June 3rd, so 1 month from now, we'll be having our primaries. I started my campaign late. I was started in December, but as I sat there and watched it, instead of yelling at the TV, I decided to do something and get out there and talk about the issues. Because I frankly believe that we're not talking about the issues enough. Some people in our party didn't want to debate. I mean, neighboring states, Ohio and Nebraska, they've had numerous debates. We've had one official debate in a couple forums finally, but that wasn't until, April here. And then I got people in our party that are trying to divide us. We have South Dakota is our best chance to pick up a U.S. Senate seat. All the prognosticators talk about it. But what they're not looking at is now we just got 2 new independents this week, and we have 3 independents who are running in the fall. 2 of which I would call our major independents. One is a former Republican senator. Another gentleman is a Tea Party activist. And then there's a third gentleman that's kind of a minor character who just came in this week. But the 2 major former Republican characters are running. And if the Republican nominee, they say, if we pick the moderate who is the front runner, they're running full bore, and we have very much the potential to split the vote and lose this U.S. Senate seat. And if we don't win in South Dakota, we will not take back the United States Senate. And we could get a gentleman, a Democrat, who has 4 national health care, and Harry Reid has said he's too extreme. Well, if Harry Reid says he's too extreme, what's the rest of the country going to think? And I believe I'm a common sense conservative who's a fiscal conservative, a social conservative, who can actually unite the party and not divide it and win this race. And so we're going to be working very hard over the next month here and hope to have a very positive result. And because it's not just about me. I'm not a career politician. This is the first time I've run, and I think I've injected some common sense and some temperament into the race. And we need to start sending leaders to Washington, as we've done with Rand Paul and Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Mr. Johnson from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So people, if they want to get involved, they can check out my website, which sounds like you've done. We've tried to put out a lot of issues out there, and it's Jason4, FOR, SouthDakota.com. We're also on Facebook by that same name, and Twitter's my name, which is Jason Ravnsborg, Ravnsborg.
Excellent. Jason, thank you so much for calling into the show. Good luck. We're gonna, you know what I'll do is I'll send you an email because go into your primary, June 3rd. I'd like to actually book you probably the following weekend after that in June to discuss, whether you end up, still in the race or not. I want to talk to you and find out what went on, because there's always these damn shenanigans that go on. Yeah, you just mentioned it too yourself. There's independents running. There's some infighting going on with the GOP, and then there's this. I don't know why they're doing this either. There's this fear that these conservative candidates, these Tea Party candidates, they're destroying the party. And the GOP isn't realizing. It's like, no, you idiots. These are the people we should be listening to. These are the people we should be talking to. Because if we keep getting these mainstream GOP people, nothing's going to change. They'll nibble around the edges. They'll say they've improved things, but they really don't. Whereas people like you and all the other candidates that I've interviewed just this year alone, and I've been doing these interviews since 2008 for the show. Every election cycle, I do the candidate interview series. I rehash it and bring it back up again. Every time I talk to these candidates, all of you guys, you guys have great ideas. You're all common sense, level-headed people. There's really, we're always painted as these extremists and these radicals, and we're not. We're just people that. Look, things are broken. We got to fix these things. Why are we engaging in the type of foreign policies that we engage in? Why are we engaging in the economic policies that we're engaging in? We've seen time and time again how these things are destroying the country. How is it that I'm a radical or you're a radical? Because I want to bring jobs back to America. Because I want a balanced budget. But how is that somehow? How is it radical that I want the government to stay out of my pocket? It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Jason, Good luck. Good luck. Go ahead. Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, just briefly that, elections do matter, and people need to get out and vote this year, but they need to get educated, activated, and, move forward with, the vote. We cannot take this election for granted. It's too important. If we pick up 6 United States Senate seats from the Republican side, we take back control of the United States Senate.
Yeah.
And we also put a check on those liberal judges that the president is now ramming through. And if we lose this election and do not get 6 seats, most likely in the next 2 years, he's going to be able to replace at least Justice Ginsburg, if not more, on the U.S. Supreme Court. And if one of the conservative justices dies or retires or, something happens to him, well, the balance of power could shift for a generation. We need to have a Republican Senate sitting there that will at least temper the president's, pick for a judicial nominee.
Excellent. Jason, thanks again. Thanks for calling in. Ladies and gentlemen, running for Senate in South Dakota, Jason Ravnsborg. Thank you again. And again, I'll send you an email and to get you booked on the weekend after June 3rd. And we'll talk in between there. And I'll send you a copy of the interview and everything else once I'm done getting it fixed and annotated and everything else. Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you on the flip side.
Bye.
Again, here we go again. Another one. Another great candidate. I love doing this. I love doing this series. I've been doing this since I started the show in 2008, and I have had the pleasure of speaking to dozens and dozens of people, and every single one of them, they're not saying anything crazy, anything radical or extreme. I mean, these people are just level-headed people. And you can go back through everything that I've interviewed here on the Meat and Potato Show just, when I started the YouTube channel. And, do you hear anything crazy from some of these people? Colonel Reeser, does that guy sound crazy? Mark Callahan out in Oregon, does that guy sound crazy? Filippo, who I interviewed here in Massachusetts, is running. Just a common sense guy. All of them are. It's unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Mader, the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk, and awesome rock.